The Browns have made their third pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, and it is Louisville wide receiver Jamari Thrash. So we're going to tell you everything there is to know about the newest member of the Cleveland Browns on today's show. First, let's get a bit of a bio here. 5'11", buck 88, ran a 4.46 40-yard dash. Jamari Thrash is not a contested catch receiver. That's what they went with last year in Cedric Tillman. Jamari Thrash is a speed-driven receiver. He is dangerous with the ball in his hands. He's not going to have the greatest amount of routes, and he's a little bit on the smaller end, which means he might get pushed off his route a little bit. But after playing at Georgia State for a handful of seasons, he transferred to Louisville for one season in the ACC, put up 63 grabs for 858 yards, 6 touchdowns. He did have an injury at the end of his time at Louisville, which cut his season short, and that really dipped into his production. Now, the Browns, in my opinion, were never going to go wide receiver early. If there was one guy that may tempt them to go wide out in day 2, I thought it could be Malachi Corley from Western Kentucky, because he's such a yak monster, and that is the only thing really missing from this Browns wide receiver room. But ultimately, I think they go with the Kirkland version here in Jamari Thrash. He's not as big as Corley. He's 20 pounds lighter, so he's not going to have the same amount of strength to run through arm tackles, but he is tough to bring down because of his speed, and with the ball in his hands, he is a threat. But once the ball before the ball gets in his hands, he's not some great savvy route runner that's going to beat you over the top necessarily, climb up a tree to catch the football in the red zone. No, but what he can do is, once the ball is in his hands, he is goodbye. Now grade the pick for me. A, B, C, D, or F. The Browns have been pretty quiet so far in the draft. That's no real surprise to me. I did not expect them to make a bunch of splash moves or anything like that. But they do go wide receiver here because we know how much the Browns value going with guys that can make impact plays. And the wide receiver room, I think there's a lot of confidence in it from Andrew Berry and the Browns, and that's reflected by not going until pick 156 to get a wideout. But I still think the Browns are always searching for playmakers, and the best way to put up points is through the air with wide receivers. Now, here's what Dane Brugler had to say on Jamari Thrash. Thrash doesn't have a true distinguishing trait as a receiver, but his separation quickness and receiving savvy will be lifelines to an NFL career. His inexperience on special teams will need to change quickly once in an NFL camp. That last sentence I thought was very important because with the new kickoff return rules, I think we're going to see a lot of teams start targeting wide receivers and corners and whatnot that could help in kick returns. So unsure if the Browns have a bigger picture in mind with Thrash if it does come on special teams. But don't look at this pick here and go, oh, he's a fast, shifty little wide receiver. That's the new kick return man. I'd pump the brakes on that. There's a lot of training camp and rookie minicamp that has to be done before we get to that stage. Now, I've got more to share and more information on the newest member of the Cleveland Browns. But first, I do want to fill you all in on our wonderful sponsor today, which is Game Time. If you want to go to a playoff Cavs game, a playoff hockey game, maybe a Guardians game, or any other local sporting event, check out Game Time today because they're giving the Dog Pound $20 off their first purchase. Now, I've already put all that information for you guys in the comments and the description of today's video, but check out Game Time today because they're going to have the best deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after the event kicks off. So visit Game Time today and use that code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, use code CHAT Sports. Now, some more background information on Jamari Thrash. I told you all how he started off at Georgia State and then transferred to Louisville. In his final season at Georgia State, 1,100 yards, 7 touchdowns, an average of 18.4 yards per reception. That was good for best in the conference, along with a single season or single game receiving yards record for Georgia State. So he's got some experience to him. And this is where Andrew Berry maybe steps out of his comfort zone a little bit. Jamari is 23 years old, We rarely see Andrew Berry draft above 22 years old, but when it's pick 156, you're not going to find a lot of athletic spring chickens like Andrew Berry likes to pursue, which we saw in his Michael Hall pick back in round 2. But for now, he finds, in his eyes, I think a playmaker with experience at the wide receiver position, because Andrew Berry loves to load up at certain position groups. Wide receiver, corner, edge rusher. He has been outspoken in public that he feels you can never have enough of those guys. So I'm not shocked that they go wide receiver here. I didn't think they'd go earlier, but ultimately they find one at pick 156. Now, before we talk about the first 2 picks the Browns made in the draft, go ahead and subscribe right now. We're going to get you guys every single pick analysis and breakdown, along with my entire draft grades for all 7 rounds of the Cleveland Browns 2024 NFL draft class. So go ahead and hit that sub button down below. Now, like every single draft pick, usually you've got an instant reaction, and then you do some reading on the prospect, and you start to do some film study, watch some highlights, and your opinion tends to likely warm up on the prospect because naturally I think all sports fans want to believe their team made the right pick. My initial grade for Mike Hall yesterday I think was like a C+. I'd probably bump it up to a B-, the most neutral draft grade you can give a prospect. Really, really young. He's not even 21 years old yet. At the Senior Bowl, opposing offensive linemen said he was the best defensive lineman they went up against. Really good against the pass. He just struggles with consistency and staying healthy. But I think if he kind of redshirts 2024, which I expect Hall and this next guy to do, come 2025, the Browns may not be searching in free agency to refill their defensive line like they have done since Andrew Berry has taken over this job. They've already got something in the works from the draft the year prior. But then at pick 85, they went with Zach Zinter, the Michigan offensive lineman. You may remember him from the Michigan-Ohio State game. He suffered a very gruesome left leg injury, which, little awkward here. The guy who fell on his leg was Michael Hall. So I hope they're able to, break bread and move on from it, or maybe they got to go watch Miracle and just recreate the whole scene all over again. But Zach Zinter, I like the pick because I've been talking about it for months on the channel. The Browns have 2 expensive guards in Wyatt Teller and Joel Petonio in 2025. I do not see them keeping both of those guards at their current price tag. So the Browns here, like Michael Hall, not drafting for 2024, drafting for 2025, which is okay with me because they have pretty much filled out their entire roster for 2024. Now, the Browns still have a few more picks to make here. So who do you want to see Cleveland draft next? They've got a 6th and 2 7th-round picks. So get in the comment section below and drop a name of a prospect you're a big fan of that is yet to have his name called. All right. Once again, Jamari Thrash, the pick for Cleveland at 156, wide receiver from Louisville. He's not going to be a contested catch guy. He's not going to be a savvy route runner, not someone you likely go to on 3rd and 7 to move the chains, but someone on 1st and 10 that with the ball in his hands can take a simple 8-yard reception into a lot more.